Get started. Go from near t-shirt weather yesterday to break some leaves, by the afternoon, and get up this morning and worry about your pipes being frozen. I don't know what's showing at y'all's place. It said 19, and it went down when the sun came up rather than going up. It went to 17. My dad said it was 12 at his house. Like, yeah, all right. We can do away with all of that. We're glad to see everybody out this morning. Let's go to our God and Father in prayer as we begin our class. Our Heavenly Father, we're so thankful again for such a beautiful day that you bless us with. We enjoy coming in and knowing we're sitting here in the warmth of this building and sit with one another and study with one another and worship you this morning, Father, and give praise to your Son. And thank Father that we're coming this morning to talk of these things of the heart, of the tongue, the gossip that may be among us, and the things that's outside of here, and knowing that the words that we say, the words that we put out there, and things that we do around people and say around people make an impact of whether or not they see us as a light in your service. Help us, Father, this morning as we study from your word to learn a more perfect way. In Jesus Christ's name we pray. Amen. So our quotes come from Proverbs this morning, starting out. It says, Proverbs 15:23 says, to make an apt answer is a joy to a man, and in word and season, how good it is. Proverbs 25:11-12 says, a word fitly spoken is like apples of gold in a setting of silver. Like a gold ring or an ornament of gold is a wise reprover to a listening ear. We're going to read the entirety of this passage here in a minute, but Paul, at the end of this, in 12:31, in 1 Corinthians 12:31, he says, let me tell you a more perfect way, or a more excellent way. And the lesson this morning has three, what they listed out as failures. And then along with that, they'll give you a more excellent way. And we're going to look at some of those this morning. So failure number one says a betrayer of confidence. Betrayer of confidence. It says, while he was still speaking, to the people, behold, his mother and his brothers stood outside asking to speak to him. But he replied to the man who told him, who is my mother and who are my brothers? And it said, in stretching out his hand toward his disciples, he said, here are my mother and my brothers. He's looking at all the people that are in front of him, the people that are there to listen to him, the people there, to learn from him. And he said, these are my brother, my mother, and my brothers. He said, for whoever does the will of my Father in heaven is my brother and sister and mother. And so I said, we are family, and we're also members of the same body. And if you want to turn to 1 Corinthians 12, I'm going to be using my phone this morning to do this. A little easier than page turning on this podium. But 1 Corinthians 12:12-31 says, for as the body is one and has many members, but all the members of that one body, being many, are one body, so also is Christ. For by one Spirit we were all baptized into one body, whether Jews or Greeks, whether slaves or free, and have all been made to drink into one Spirit. For in that fact the body is not one member, but many. If the foot should say, because I am not a hand, I am not of the body, is it therefore not of the body? And if the ear should say, because I am not an eye, I am not of the body, is it therefore not of the body? If the whole body were an eye, where would be the hearing? If the whole were hearing, where would be the smelling? But now God has set the members, each one of them, in the body just as he pleased. And if there were all one member, where would the body be? But now indeed there are many members, yet one body. And the eye cannot say to the hand, I have no need of you. Nor again the head to the feet, I have no need of you. No, much rather those members of the body which seem to be weaker are necessary. And those members of the body which we think to be less honorable, on these we bestow greater honor. And our unpresentable parts have greater modesty, but our presentable parts have no need. But God composed the body, having given greater honor to that part which lacks it, that there should be no schism in the body, but that the members should have the same care for one another. And if one member suffers, all the members suffer with it. Or if one member is honored, all the members rejoice with it. Now you are the body of Christ, and members individually. And God has appointed these in the church. His first apostles, second prophets, third teachers, after that miracles, then gifts of healings, helps, administrations, varieties of tongues. Are all apostles? Are all prophets? Are all teachers? Are all workers of miracles? Do all have gifts of healings? Do all speak with tongues? Do all interpret? But earnestly desire the best gifts, and yet I show you a more excellent way. I mean, Paul lays it out there that we are all together one body, and we're all one family. And just to think about it, that since we are a family and that we are members of that same family, that yes, we're going to confide at some point in one another. You know, the example kind of given here in the book, if you're reading any part of that, starts talking about, you know, if you come in this building and unless you're somebody that makes a 100-yard sprint to see how fast you can get to the car, you know, after the amens are done, more likely you're going to stand around and you're going to get to talk with people. You're going to get to know people. And at some point in time, you may even go out to eat with somebody or go home with them and eat in their own home or just go do things together. You know, you build relationships. You may not coming in as somebody brand new to here, come in and trust me right out the gate. Enough to want to sit down and have a conversation with me personally about something in your life. But at some point, more likely you will. You'll get that person you sit next to in church every time you come in this building. You'll get that person that you do a lot of things with. You know, it's in a congregation this size, it's unlikely that we're all going to go out to eat together at one place. You know, that would be a raid on a restaurant, right? But we will have relationships with one another. And you're going to find out things that are personal between you and that other person, between you and their entire family. You know, things about their kids, things about their parents, you know, things about a cousin and their uncle or aunt. You know, it doesn't matter. Or even some odd relationship that may be going on between them and another member of your greater family church. But it's just saying that at some point you're going to probably confide in them about something. And you're confiding in trust that is not going to be put on the newsreel for everybody at church to know about. Or even outside of that, in the community or anywhere else. You know, they're going to be confiding in trust in you for that part. More excellent way. It says, bear one another's burdens and so fulfill the law of Christ. So, the more explain, bear one of those burdens. Saying that you're truly walking with them. Still washing down dust from yesterday. Truly walking with them. That you're praying for them. I mean, you might find something about their life that is very hard for them to get over. You know, there's sin in everybody's life. There's something personal you may find out about that person, and they're counting on you as that person to reach out to help them with it. They don't need for us, or that one that confides in, to go to somebody else and say, hey, you know what I heard about? And spreading that out there to somebody else. They're confiding in you. They want you to take care of them. You should be praying for them. Shouldering the load. So in the book and the examples of things about that, he lays out the example of going and helping his mother move furniture. And at the same time his mother, they're moving furniture, she's wanting to make small talk about something and said, here's me and my brother taking in the couch or the refrigerator or whatever it is we're in the house, and mom's wanting to make small talk. And Mom, I ain't got time to talk about this right now. I am fully loaded down. Let me drop this burden off that I have. But again, there's things about it says, if you're shouldering the load, if you're carrying somebody else's burden, you don't have time to gossip about them. You're more concerned about their need, more concerned about helping them than you are about talking about them. If you put that focus toward that end. And it said concern overwhelms the gossip. If you got a concern for the person that is, more of your focus, more in your mind than, sitting down and just spreading the wealth of love and knowledge you have about them to somebody else, that will overwhelm the gossip that comes with it. Failure number 2. Gossip seeks not, somehow or another, I did not get that spell right, but gossip does not seek reconciliation. We've been over these verses, but it's worth looking at again. Go to 2 Timothy 3 and 1-5. We're going to hit these again. 2 Timothy 3 and 1-5. It said, but know this, that in the last days perilous times will come. For men will be lovers of themselves, lovers of money, boasters, proud, blasphemers, disobedient to parents, unthankful, unholy, unloving, unforgiving, slanderers, without self-control, brutal, despisers of good, traitors, headstrong, haughty, lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God, having a form of godliness that denying its power. And for such people, turn away. And then we look at Romans 1:28. And even as they did not like to retain, am I not right? Yeah. And even as they did not like to retain God in their knowledge, God gave them over to a debased mind to do those things which are not fitting, being filled with all unrighteousness, sexual immorality, wickedness, covetousness, maliciousness, full of envy, murder, strife, deceit, evil-mindedness. They are whisperers, backbiters, haters of God, violent, proud, boasters, inventors of evil things, disobedient to parents, undiscerning, untrustworthy, unloving, unforgiving, unmerciful, who knowing the righteous judgment of God, that those who practice such things are deserving of death, not only to the same, but also approve of those who practice them. And lastly, on there, 2 Corinthians and 12 and 20. It said, for I fear that perhaps when I come, I may not find you as I wish, and that you may find me not as you wish, that perhaps there may be quarreling, jealousy, anger, hostility, slander, gossip, conceit, and disorder. There's some things that kind of are going to link all these things together in one sense. And I'm looking at specific words that came out of there that kind of go all together. But one of them, unappeasable. You cannot please them. There's nothing about it that, they just can't do anything with them. Insolent, faithless, heartless. In 2 Corinthians, hostility and anger. And Paul lumps them all kind of into one category. They're irreconcilable. If you're any part of this, or any part of these things, and there's a long list, and of every one of these things that these people are, they cannot be reconciled with God. So, putting that in a sense, if you're in that, one, you can't be reconciled with God. The second part of it is, you don't want to reconcile anything with anybody. You don't want to make peace. You don't want to make things right. You just rather just go with the flow and just be you and spread things around, and just not make things right with people. So gossip has no concern for restoring relationships. And that shouldn't be the way we should be. I think if you have somebody that maybe you were good friends and all of a sudden now you're sitting on opposite ends of the church. Because whatever happened in your relationship or whatever happened there in your friendship and going on, now you just don't talk to one another. How's that being Christian-like at all? When it tells us before you go to the altar that you're supposed to go back to that brother, sister, whoever, we talked about this in past classes, go back to them and make things right. Because even it says, if you say that you're a Christian, you do not do these things. It says your religion is worthless. So you're sitting in the same building worshiping God and praising God and worshiping the Son and the Father. You say you got your life all together and you're worshiping and you're giving honor to God, but in the same building with you sits a brother or sister that you cannot talk to. So consider that it is saying that your religion is worthless. Because you cannot even look a brother or sister in their face to reconcile something with them. Kind of hits you right in the heart, don't it? To think about that. That, okay, I just go on with my life, they go on with theirs. I'm going to worship my God. Here's my road, my straight road. That's what I'm going to do. Says your relationship with God is worthless. More excellent way, being peacemakers. So coming from the Sermon on the Mount, and this is going to be, you can turn to Matthew 9, or Matthew 5 rather. We're going to hit the rest of these verses. Putting them all in slide was just going to be like, it's going to be slides forever. But Matthew 5 and verse 9 says, blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called sons of God. And if we go down to verse 21, so you have heard that it was said of those of old, you shall not murder, and whoever murders will be liable to the judgment. But I say to you that everyone who is angry with his brother will be liable to judgment. Whoever insults his brother will be liable to the council. And whoever says, you fool, will be liable to the hell of fire. So if you are offering your gift at the altar and remember that your brother has something against you, leave your gift there before the altar and go. First be reconciled to your brother, and then come and offer your gift. Excuse me. Come to terms quickly with your accuser while you are going with him to court, lest your accuser hand you over to the judge, and the judge to the guard, and you be put in prison. Truly I say to you, you will never get out until you have paid the last penny. Then 43 to 48. You have heard that it was said, you shall love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I say to you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you, so that you may be sons of your Father who is in heaven. For he makes his sun rise on the evil and on the good, and sends rain on the just and the unjust. For if you love those who love you, what reward do you have? Do not even the tax collectors do the same? And if you greet only your brothers, what more are you doing than others? Do not even the Gentiles do the same? You therefore must be perfect as your heavenly Father is perfect. Peacemaking is not easy. Have you ever had somebody in your life that you need to apologize to? I see a few heads bouncing. How easy was that? I see it going the other way. That's just not easy at all. Yeah. And you know it gets harder the longer you wait, to the point that you just completely forget about it. Oh, it must not be that important at all if I apologize. But are you still, you got that going? Did you talk to that person ever again? Did you ever have a relationship with them again? Think about that here, within our body, within our church. We're supposed to be, in unity together with one another. And somebody, you have a problem with somebody. Maybe you've wronged them, and it's definitely on you to apologize. But you don't. You'd rather go sit down with somebody else, potentially, and go, this is what happened between me and whoever, and let them know that story. Shuck off the problem onto somebody else. It's hard work. It definitely is hard work to apologize and to rebuild a relationship that was damaged. It is hard to put that back together again. We talked about in earlier lessons about that thing. You got this great reputation for years, and it only takes one event to tear the whole thing to the ground. Same thing with your relationships with people here, relationships at home, relationships outside of here. You build it all the way up. Maybe you wronged somebody, maybe they wronged you, but the time is, we need to get together now and talk about these things and get all this problem worked out. And do you think it's going to be fixed right there and then? We're going to hug one another. We're going to go on about things about our lives and it'll be fixed, it'll be all perfect, and everything's going to be sunshines and rainbows after that. We don't forget things very well. I can go to God and I can pray for forgiveness, and He tells me, I will remember it no more. He's not historical. Unfortunately, we are. We remember that slight. So putting that shaky foundation back underneath there again to build that back up is going to take some work to get it solid again. We should be rejoicing in a relationship restored. We've lost somebody, and we're going after them to bring them back. They've lost us, we've lost them. We're trying to build that back up. So gossip only serves to divide. If you want to talk about the problem that you're having with somebody else, rather than fix that problem and put it back together again, it's just going to keep the widening of that gap until it's finally something you don't think you or may not ever be able to put back together again. And you got a crack that you can step over right now. That line's in the sand. You can step over it, and you can fix it, potentially. But it's just going to keep shaking until it's so wide that you may not be able to do anything with it. It only serves to divide. Always takes the path of least resistance. It gives the example in here of water. You pour water down, or you see a river run, or wherever it goes, it takes the path of least resistance. Whatever will help it flow. And it just keeps going that way. I thought of some other things about water. You think about water right now. You let that seep into a crack, and right now it's frozen. Guess what it's doing even right now? Spreading that crack even further. Our potholes are going to start showing up before you know it. And the more you let it let the damage stay there, the worse it gets. And the water, like I say, will take the path of least resistance. Same thing as gossip. It's a path of least resistance. We'd rather tell somebody about our problems that's really not, or the problems we're having with someone else when it's actually our own. We'd rather shuck that off and shove it off on somebody else. We can speak about it and talk about it and say things about it all day long. It doesn't fix anything, but it's a path of least resistance to get, it's off my chest now. Finally, somebody else knows. Failure number 3. Gossip is a violation of the second greatest commandment. Gossip is the opposite of love. Gossip has no love for their fellow man. In 1 Corinthians 13, 6-7, it says, love does not rejoice at wrongdoing, but rejoices with the truth. Love bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. I highlighted that one word there for a reason. I'm pointing at that word like y'all know what I'm pointing at. Wrongdoing. When you read that little phrase right there, does not rejoice in wrongdoing, what does that mean to you? Anybody? What does that mean when he says does not rejoice in wrongdoing? What, say that again.
Yeah. He goes, I wish those guys would just get killed. I said, that's not a very nice thing to say, even if they are bad guys.
So he's not rejoicing at somebody else's wrongdoing at the moment. He's wishing for it. Anybody else? What does that phrase mean to you? That it says, does not rejoice at wrongdoing. In particular, who's doing the wrongdoing? Huh?
Wants nothing to do with it.
Love wants nothing to do with the wrongdoing. Whose wrongdoing? Maybe we put it that way. Whose wrongdoing is this talking about? I've got 2 scenarios there. Maybe you can pick them out. I'm sitting there thinking, love, does not rejoice at wrongdoing, that I'm not rejoicing at, your wrongdoing. All right? You're doing something that I see as sinful, but love should not rejoice in that. Right? I mean, people are going to sin. We're going to know it. We shouldn't be happy about it. And love that. What about your own? I mean, I'm thinking I've read this for years, and I go, does not rejoice in wrongdoing, and I'm looking at, okay, I'm not rejoicing, my love does not rejoice in your wrongdoing. But what about your own? The wrongdoing that you are doing. Love should not rejoice in that either. It should be not make you happy that you're spreading lies about somebody, that you're talking about them behind their back, that you're doing anything of your own wrongdoing. You shouldn't rejoice in that either. So it's got a little double edge there. But I think that most people read this and thinking about it going, I should not rejoice in what you're doing. then your wrongdoing, what you're doing is sinful. But it should, like I say, it should bears all things to go to the next part of it. Love does not rejoice in failings. We're going to have problems. We're not going to meet everybody's expectations. Quite frankly, it's not my job to meet everybody's expectations. Now it's my, within me to be as, close to God as pure as I can. I'm a sinful person. I'm needing of, God's grace as much as anybody else. I struggle along the way. And I would hope that somebody seeing my wrongdoings at some point, if they saw that, would come to me and I go outside of here, or even within the building, even worse. You know what Mike's been doing? That's not a godly experience, or at least example. You should be coming to me, finding the time to meet with me and talk to me. If I'm failing at something, you shouldn't be going home and rejoicing in that. Love believes in the best. That, me being whatever's going on with me, whatever's going with you, if I have love for you, I believe that the best outcome is going to be met for you. The greatest commandments. Jesus cites, when he goes through these verses or these scriptures in Matthew 22 and Mark 12, he cites from these two scriptures in the Old Testament. And if you want to look at those, Deuteronomy, let me get there myself. Deuteronomy 6, 4 through 5. It says, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your might." And then let's look at Leviticus 19 and 18. And we're going to look at a little deeper dive into Leviticus in just a moment. But it said, "You shall not take vengeance or bear grudge against the sons of your people, but you shall love your neighbor as yourself. I am the Lord." So Jesus, when he comes through and he's citing these scriptures, in Matthew, 22 and Matthew 22 and Mark 12, that these two commandments go hand in hand. The one talking about, when he says in both of them, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and mind. And then together, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. John kind of puts these all together, and here's some words from him. 1 John 2, 9 through 11 says, "Whoever says he is in the light and hates his brother is still in darkness. Whoever loves his brother abides in the light, and in him there is no cause for stumbling. But whoever hates his brother is in the darkness and walks in the darkness, and does not know where he is going, because the darkness has blinded his eyes. But if anyone has the world's goods and sees his brother in need, yet closes his heart against him, how does God's love abide in him? If anyone says, I love God, and hates his brother, he is a liar. For he who does not love his brother whom he has seen cannot love God whom he has not seen." Leviticus 19, if you back up here to starting in 16, says, "You shall not go around as a slanderer among your people, and you shall not stand up against the life of your neighbor. I am the Lord. You shall not hate your brother. in your heart, but you shall reason frankly with your neighbor, lest you incur sin because of him. And then it says, you shall not take vengeance or bear grudge against the sons of your own people, but you shall love your neighbor as yourself. I am the Lord. There's a Hebrew word called rachiel, and it's translated slanderer, and it's found also in these verses here. Proverbs, whoever goes about slandering reveals secrets, but he who is trustworthy in his spirit keeps a thing covered. It said, whoever goes about slandering reveals secrets. Therefore, do not associate with a simple babbler. Jeremiah said, they are all stubbornly rebellious, going about slanders. They are bronze and iron. All of them act corruptly. Let everyone beware of his neighbor and put no trust in any brother, for every brother is a deceiver, and every neighbor goes about as a slanderer. I think this is the only verse so far that we have not come across in all this study we've done. It said, there are men who slander to shed blood, and people who eat on the mountains. They commit lewdness in your midst. If you look at Leviticus 19 and it's the things that's listed, and the things that happens when it comes to and related to gossip in each one, and being a slanderer. Murder in Leviticus 19:16, hate in Leviticus 19:17, revenge or grudge built in 19 verse 18. So gossip eliminates love, plans revenge. Proverbs 24:28-29 says, be not a witness against your neighbor without cause, and do not deceive with your lips. Do not say, I will do to him as he has done to me. I will pay the man back for what he has done. That's kind of the exact opposite, right? You know, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. So I will go and, pay this man back for what he's done to me. Do you want that same thing to be turned upon your head? The exact opposite. I will do to him as he has done to me. Come down the final stretch here. The more excellent way. Number 3. Love eliminates gossip. It said if we love someone, we do not want to talk about them behind their back. It says also, we do not want to wrongly ascribe motives to that person. We are often quick to defend ones we love. If somebody comes to you about your spouse, about your girlfriend, boyfriend, about your kids, about your parents, somebody even outside here is a dear friend to you, and somebody wants to come and say something about them, we're pretty quick to defend those, right? Pretty quick to it. But we're also just as quick to rush to judgment against somebody we don't like. Well, that sounds about right. Somebody wants to come tell you something about it, say, yeah, that sounds about like them. And we don't do anything further to investigate things, or maybe do something to reverse that, or just don't listen at all. But we're pretty quick to rush to judgment on those. Gossip is destructive, and it's poisonous. I haven't done a deep dive search into it yet, but I'm going to before the end of this. I've got one more lesson with you, and then Darren's going to take over to bring us home on the 28th. We're going to Florida. Sorry. We'll go down there. He's going to bring us home what the 15th chapter of this, what Christ's example is for us. But talking about it being just a poisonous thing for us or for anywhere. That little leaven that leaveneth the whole lump. That's not talking of something good. Makes great bread, but it doesn't do good for when you're talking about things that happen within your body of Christ, within your family, within your relationships at work, within your relations anywhere. It only takes a drop of whatever it is to get things started. And we talk about that spread of wildfire, that little triangle of fire that we talk about. When they just, all you got to do is start it. Get a spark, get somebody that wants to fuel it, and keep it raging until it's out of control. It will destroy. It will destroy anything it comes in path with. But I was talking about doing that deep dive into, sins in the Bible and which ones are talked about the most. I can promise you the tongue is one of the ones leading the way. When it talks about slanders, when it talks about just out gossiping, about things we say and things we do, I promise you it's one of the probably leads the way. Probably the other one is sexual sin. Probably leads the top of the list too. I promise you I can control my body toward not doing things in a sexual nature much better than I can control my mouth. These things we just try to, spill in our heads sometimes, makes a direct connection and just got to have some control. We're going to finish early today, unless somebody's got a lot of discussion for me. The more excellent way. Take your Christian duties seriously. Think about bear one another's burdens. We know how easy it is to get a job done when there's many people taking care of it. Perfect example yesterday. And in times past when we've done these leaf raking duties, you go to some people's yards, you wonder how in the world you're going to get this done. I had not been to Margaret Derryberry's house recently until yesterday. Did not have in the back of my mind how big her yard actually is. And her yard, at this point, is the biggest of any ones we've done. Thought it was Bobby Aaron. No, hers is worse. And it was covered. Half of her place was under a full blanket of leaves. It took us a little time, but we got it done in 2 hours. If I'd have been doing that by myself, Tony had been doing that by himself, it'd been an all-day job, maybe a couple days, depending upon how much stamina you got and how much effort you want to put into it. Do you finally just kick it and say they can rot where they are? But with the people that we had, how many total did we have there yesterday? Did you ever count them up? I think at one point we had close to 20 people there. Probably. I'd have to put it back in my head. But we finished things up. I had to leave, go to get a piece of equipment, and come back. And that's another thing. And nice equipment we got. But we finished it up about an hour and a half. I think it was. Hour and a half, 2 hours. And we were on to the next job. But we finished up 4 pretty significantly sized yards that had a lot in them to do by around 12:30. But think about shouldering, the burdens of even one person here. It may take more than just a person, but if they have something that they need help with, they need that from you. It may be just come sit with me and not talk at all. It may be that you just sit there and get a hug from somebody that know that you care. Or you're going and you're praying with them, but you're shouldering somebody's burden with them. Seek the path of peace and know when you go into it that it's not going to be easy. Peace is not easy. All the wars that we've had to get us to where we are now, those were not easy, and they, result in loss of life in that. It's not easy. You're going to have to work at it. Sir.
The person that is in that need as well, and someone is willing to do it, you also need to be willing to allow them to do it, if that's what they want, if they're willing to do it to help you. Because sometimes, we'll have people say, hey, can I just come sit with you? Or can I come just pray with you? And you're like, no, I won't, no, that's okay. Thank you though for doing,
Yeah.
But instead, you're taking away an opportunity
Exactly.
for someone to be able to do good, which then would be a benefit to you, and stuff. So it's that humility to kind of both ways.
Yeah, you may, and if you didn't hear what Derek was saying, is somebody sees you have something or has a need and knows that you need help. You got to be receptive to that help. Somebody wants to come to you and help you shoulder that burden. Just don't inwardly take it in and just shut down and just let it load me down. Sometimes that sin that you have or something that's within your heart or something you need to get off of your chest, that's part of growth. Letting that just sit there sitting on top of you can hold you down even further. Let somebody help you. And then love one another biblically. As we've discussed in all these verses, these things we're talking about, that you have to have within your heart the love that God gave you. I pray this a lot, that, God being our creator, we know that God is love, and that, like you say, if you say, I love God, and you hate your brother, then it says you're a liar. Because it is not in you. That's saying God is not in you. If if that is there and you hate your brother and you do not do the things like that and do not love in a biblical fashion, then he is not in you. But it's proof that there is a God, because we all love in some fashion, because there is, I think even the most heinous criminal out there has love in their heart for something. Although they're criminals. They do things, they murder, they steal, they do whatever they do. They love something, and for me, God put it there. It's not accidental that love is in you, because God created you in his image. And with him creating us in his image, that means we are created to love one another. We just got to live it out, and live it out in our everyday lives, live it out in the people we talk with, live it out in our relationships. Well, I carried it to the bell. Thank you very much. I'll see you next Sunday.